Israel has a set of demands for Iran as Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is ready to meet President Trump in Washington, D.C. While both allies discuss ways to negotiate with Iran, Iran remains hell-bent on keeping its missile buttons and nuclear program activated. Here's a report.
Chance to do something.
West Asia is sitting on a volcano that may erupt at any moment. Iran, the US and Israel are the central players in this game of threat and deterrence. Iran and the United States are giving a chance to diplomacy, but their forces continue to remain at striking distance. Diplomacy, defense and military moves. The outcome of the Oman talks could flip the balance towards a confrontation or conciliation. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is meeting US President Donald Trump on the 11th of February. This meeting will prove crucial for Iran-US dynamics, as Tehran has threatened to strike not only Israel but also US military bases if it is attacked. Israel has its own concerns and demands regarding Iran. According to a report published in the Israeli media, Benjamin Netanyahu has laid down a list of demands for Tehran. This includes the complete cancellation of Iran's nuclear program, zero uranium enrichment or Tehran's inability to do so, the removal of enriched material from Iran, and more importantly, reducing the range of Iranian missiles to 300 kilometers. Israel also wants Iran to dismantle its axis of resistance, comprising of Hamas, Hezbollah and the Houthis, and also armed factions in Iraq. The first round of talks in Oman have concluded. How much ground has been cleared remains unclear. But the US president has warned of steep consequences if the talks fail.
We're going to meet again early next week. And they want to make a deal, Iran, as they should want to make a deal. They know the consequences. If they don't make a deal, the consequences are very steep.
The Iranian side has also drawn a red line. Talks with the United States will only focus on nuclear capabilities. Iran's ballistic missile program remains a red line not to be crossed. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has a clear message for Washington. Iranians are people of diplomacy, but also a people of war.
Their military deployment in the region does not scare us. We are people of diplomacy, but we are also people of war. We are not looking for war, but we are ready to fight if we are challenged. We are diplomatic because we have logic on our side, because we choose words. We are logical.
The US side is pushing for Iran to significantly reduce its military capabilities. Iran's military might is a direct threat to Israel, which is Washington's closest ally in the region. The closest points between Iran and Israel are about 1,000 kilometers apart, bringing Israel within striking range for at least 8 Iranian missiles. Bringing this range down to 300 kilometers guarantees protection to Israel from any Iranian attack. It's a proposition that remains unacceptable to Tehran. Both sides are exerting maximum pressure. The USS Abraham Lincoln is sailing in Arabian Sea waters, which is proving a costly affair for the United States. It costs approximately $6 million every single day just to keep a supercarrier active. So, Trump needs to decide soon on his next course of action. While Iranian missiles remain locked in on American bases in West Asia. If the diplomatic option is exhausted, the region could explode. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
Joining us live now from Washington, D.C. is Professor Giorgio Cafiero from Georgetown University and CEO, Gulf State Analytics. Professor Cafiero, it's good to see you. Diplomacy, defense, and military moves, outcome of the Oman talks, could flip the balance towards a confrontation or a reconciliation or conciliation between Iran and the United States. What do you make of that statement? Let's begin from there.
Yeah, thank you so much. Wonderful to be back on your program. You know, I think it's pretty clear that the White House, as well as Tehran, would like to avoid a military confrontation. Iran is in a very weak state, both internally and regionally, and it does not want to fight a war with the world's dominant military power. Iran wants certainly to find a diplomatic solution that can lead to sanctions relief. I think Trump himself does not want the U.S. pulled into or even starting a protracted military conflict in the Middle East. That would be very costly in terms of blood and treasure. So there is a shared desire to find a diplomatic solution, but that doesn't mean that the two sides are going to agree on one, and I'm sure we'll talk about soon. The number one spoiler here is Israel, which wants to absolutely sabotage any possibility of a diplomatic solution to the Iranian nuclear issue.
Now that you mentioned Israel, I'm glad that you did mention Israel, because Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will be heading to Washington on the 18th of this month, and some of the demands that Israel has on Iran quite simply go against the demands of Iran, because Iran says that they're not backing down on enriching uranium. How do you think that is going to play out in Florida?
Well, your program did a great job of listing all of these maximalist demands that Israel has. These are demands that Iran would never, ever agree to. Basically, Iran is being asked by Israel to commit itself to becoming a completely defenseless country. The Israelis know full well that Iran would not agree to those demands. This is part of a strategy aimed at sabotaging diplomacy, and Netanyahu knows what he's doing, and people in the United States who are realistic about the situation understand what the Israeli agenda is. Nobody in Washington, Tel Aviv, or Tehran expects the Islamic Republic to agree to those demands. They're simply non-starters. Talk about the threat of Iranian missiles to Israel. Talk about the threat of Iran's nuclear program, as if Israeli missiles and Israel's nuclear program don't threaten other countries in the region. I mean, this is completely one-sided. This is an attempt to ensure that Israel is completely dominant over every single part of the Middle East, and that there is zero resistance to Israeli domination throughout the region. And any potential diplomatic agreement between Washington and Tehran could threaten that Israeli agenda. That is what's going on right now. That explains Netanyahu's interest in coming to the United States, meeting with Trump, and trying to convince him to abandon diplomacy with Tehran.
Professor Cafiero, we've been talking about this for weeks now. Is the war imminent? Very quickly.
It certainly could be. And at a time in which the Brinkmanship is so intense, with this huge military presence right next to Iran, very, very strong rhetoric, even just a tiny misunderstanding could easily set off a war that regionalizes and internationalizes very quickly. This could be a conflict much more devastating than what we witnessed in June 2025. The risks are very, very high. At the same time, a war is not inevitable. The Omanis and others in the region, including the Egyptians, the Turks, the Qataris, and the Saudis, are doing what they can to provide the diplomatic space for the U.S. and Iran to pursue an off-ramp at this moment. We don't know how this is going to play out, but I think it's important for everyone to understand that diplomacy is possible and that war is not inevitable.
Professor Cafiero, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you for talking to us today.
Good to be with you.